had a bank, and it was all because that chair of the board had some relationship with that bank.
With the bank.
So they put the money over there in that bank. So now they're gonna investigate. The whole point around that is that every time something like this happens, the legislature adds another rule, right? Another law.
Yeah.
So I was trying to say, how do you, well, kind of help people with all this
We
stuff?
had something like, we were supposed to sign when you join a board, and one board I had, and they said, sign that by joining this board, you will not benefit in any way, you or your family members will not benefit in any way by you being on this board.
It's a conflict of interest statement, which you should be signing every year. And so let's use that as a quick transition over to the bylaws. We're not gonna go through them. No, that's all right that they're there. What I want to do is just show them to you. These are old bylaws, but they're also in pretty good shape. Okay, they do need some review by your attorney, and then when your attorney will update them, make sure that all the new laws are in there. So, you know, the way it's organized is it starts by just general organization. Just go ahead and go through it, and I'll tell you when to stop. This first part, you know, it's just kind of general information. But when you get to Article 2, that's about you guys. Your terms, any vacancies, what qualifies you to be on this board. The most important part of this, keep going. Because you need a process for how you add new board members if you decide to do that. You have something in there, that's something that you want to think about, but keep going. Keep going.
Is it
Are you
scrolling?
stuck?
You need a mouse?
Oh, it's not. Huh, let me see if I can.
Oh,
is
it stop?
I'm here scrolling and it's stopped. Let's see what's going on here. Let me see here. Stop share.
When we do, let's have everybody come. You don't have to have it in Phoenix, you can have it here in town, you can have it in Bernalillo, at the restaurant.
We just have to make sure it's noticed,
Just have to
right?
make sure it's posted,
Which article
but
do you want?
we have to put it on.
Oh, you have to record it, don't you?
Yeah, we have to put it on Zoom to record.
Yeah.
But just to record, so we don't have to show.
All right, here,
Because
now,
Susan is gonna be on
More?
right from school, but she said she can fly down. Okay. We'll do it.
So one of the most important parts of this section is this thing about general powers and duties. Again, your attorney will go in and just clarify things. Here, this tells you what you can and can't do. Okay, so this is an area that you need to know. We won't go into today, but it's an important part. And you can make changes to your bylaws at any time. Okay,
Could we get a copy? Let's just say the board members get a copy of this and we all take a section and see what, you know.
that was the activity we were
For
gonna
today.
do.
For today.
We all learn part and then-
We got all off on this tangent.
That's all right. We can still, we can still do that, you know, in the future, but this is a really important part.
those are my norms for a while. You started it.
Yeah.
So representation by individual board members, that's an important part, that individual board members have no authority
As an
as
individual.
an individual, just collectively, equally. And then all that compensation you receive. There's no compensation. This one is another one that's really important, conflict of interest.
Yes.
And every year you should review this and you should sign the conflict of interest statement that says, I have no conflicts. And if I do, I will let everybody know what they are. And then you all decide if that conflict is really a conflict. Because you might say, yes, it's a conflict. So all we're going to ask is, David, don't vote on that particular issue. That's how we're going to decide. Okay. Or you could decide, you know, if it's a conflict, not only can David not vote on it, we don't want him at the meeting where that's going to be discussed. But you guys decide, okay?
But the thing about the conflicts too is like Kiani and I had this, like, my sister taught at the school. Her mom worked at the school, her grandma worked at the school, but we're a small community that, you know, there was certain rules around it that they investigated, but there was something that was said a long time ago, is because we don't have that many board members that we were okay to get, you know, to be on the board, even though we had relatives that working at the school. But you're right, if something happened, we had to excuse ourselves. There you go.
And so that issue is governed by your bylaws. And you guys can determine what that looks like as long as it's in compliance with the law. Okay, so it's something you'll spend more time on. Again, we won't do it today. Keep going to the. So then, keep going. Go, 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 go. Go, go. Keep going. There's that violation of conflict, but again, all of that is conflict. The next part is about your meetings, and much of your meetings are governed by the Open Meetings Act, and we're gonna spend some time on that after we finish this part. So keep going. Keep going, keep going.
All right, it's got a little lag, good.
Yeah. I can see it on the bottom it's going.
It talks about the fact that you have to have minutes, how, that you're gonna use Robert's Rules of Order, your board committees, executive sessions. And that's also in your the Meetings Act, officers, keep going. Keep going. Resignation, and then there's a whole section on your principal. And that's, this tells you what the principal does, their duties, qualifications and all that. That's something that you can also revisit. One of the things that's different about charter schools is that the principal is not just the principal. They are the principal and they're the director of the school. So what is the right term for that? People use different terms. Some are called head administrators. Some are called executive directors. Some are called,
No one's called.
no,
Who really knows?
some people talk that way about that they're a superintendent, but they're not a
Yeah.
superintendent. What's really important, when we talk to people about that issue is that it's not called a charter school district. It's called a charter school. Okay, that's why we don't want people thinking that you're like an elected board of education. You have many of the same powers and duties, but you're not an elected board of education. And your head administrator, whatever you decide to call him, is not a superintendent. And I think we want to get away from that idea that they're superintendents. The Evans Valley School District, they got that structure right. Yeah, that's their structure, not your structure. Keep going. So you'll want to spend some time as we'll go down looking at that part of the principal duties and qualifications. Okay.
Because there are some schools, and I don't mean to jump in,
Yeah.
there are some schools where they do have the executive director and they have principals under that, right? But then like in small schools like where we're at, I am taking on that director and principal position, right? That makes sense. Yeah.
So there's a couple other things to look at. These are all of these are important, but you'll spend more time with that. Keep going. There's one that policy adoption. That really talks about your role as a board, as a governing board, the policy that you adopt. So that's another area where we spend some time focusing on. Okay. So those are basically your bylaws. Like I said, they're in pretty good shape, and your attorney will look at send them to him so that he can update them, and then you'll get a clean copy. Okay. Not this old copy, but a clean copy. But you all need to know them. And please know, you need to know them. If you need to expect your dad to be the one that's the expert and knows everything.
That implements them.
Yeah, so that if anything happens, he knows it really well.
And then, just so you should adopt your bylaws every year. It should be part of, when you have your, beginning of year, when you're adopting your student handbook, your employee handbook, your bylaws should also be adopted as well.
And your open meetings act.
Yeah. Yes. And a conflict of interest. Yes, every year at the beginning of the school year.
Well, so people do it at their annual meeting.
Yeah.
And some people hold their annual meeting at the beginning of the year, some hold it at the end of the year. It doesn't matter when you do it.
Right.
Well, as long as you decide when you're gonna do it so that you make sure and get it done, right? at time. I like doing it during the annual meeting, because then you already have a set agenda for your annual meeting.
Right, and that's with all the parents and everything?
No.
No, your annual, see,
Do you do something like
well,
that?
no, our annual meeting has been with the charter school, the coalition or Mexico Charter School, Coalition, or they have that meeting, like all together.
Oh, when you go
We go to their events. We went to one at the Tommy, they have one in early like November, but they had one last year, that's, they had one in June, they have one in June. to go to that one, but we didn't go last year. We didn't go like during COVID, so we want to start going again to that one. They're already asking us to register and stuff for that June one.
Well, that's PED.
The P, that's
Yeah,
the P.
the Charter School Division, they do a conference every year.
Yeah,
But that's not your
but
annual
that's
meeting.
not us, no, we never,
Yeah.
so we never really did stuff like, this is our annual meeting. We've talked about like a year-end stuff, what happened, like, like in our June meeting, talked about what happened throughout the year, or whatever. But I never really called it an annual.
So your bylaws call for an annual meeting. So take a look at that, what it says, and when it is, and then decide how you want to structure it.
It needs to be labeled as label it as a annual.
There can be-
And it could
All
be separate than a
boards are
monthly
required to have
meeting.
an, required to write terms of best practice,
Mhm.
but you gotta have it. I like using the annual meeting because that's when you want all the workers to make sure they're that way. You have an update on where the school is, you update these, kind of requirements, legal requirements, you get them all done. And then you can move on to the rest of your business.
I think what's good about an annual meeting too is your head administrator, along with the attorney, can give you what's new in terms of new legislation that year. And how does that impact you all? What are you gonna have to do to make sure that you are, upholding the new legislation?
So, again, we can do something at a future meeting or on the bylaws, or that's something you all can do also. So, moving on, then, the Open Meetings Act too, the next.
So in front of you, you have an Open Meetings Act compliance checklist. And so it is, again, at that annual meeting, usually you agree on an open meetings resolution. I did ask, and Joanne has the copy, I did ask your attorney to put together your open meetings resolution, and they completed one for you all for San Diego Riverside. There's specific information about when you all meet on a regular basis, and some other, Joanne can fill in after we kind of discuss and make sure. But if you look at it, it's in statute, the open meeting applies to public bodies. So that means anytime a quorum, so that's why you have to be really careful. So say Joanne emails all of you, like an agenda or something. If you would like something to be brought up, just reply just to him. Don't reply all. Once you reply all, it becomes then in violation of Open Meetings Act because you're having a conversation with the board. So you only reply in emails just to the one person. Say Margie even email. You can reply to Margie, that's fine. But don't reply all.
Okay, because that happened this year, or this meeting. So I tell everybody, now, that we're having this meeting.
And that's fine because
If you know, here, the agenda touched on the bottom, it needs to be posted by Jensen, so I did that.
Yes.
But then about a week later, I said, can everyone tell me if they're coming or not? Oh. So then they replied, I'll be there like that. So
Yeah.
then I'm in violation by that happening and everybody replied all.
Right.
I did that too, that's Solari. I did that too when I was in there. All of us did, just to, all the board members.
I get that, like,
Because the reply all is kind of an easy kind of thing, but would just be really careful.
like I can write her an email saying, are you coming to the meeting?
Yes.
I can write him, are you coming to the
You can
meeting?
Text her.
Oh, okay.
But you can do two at a time, just as long as it's not
Yeah.
a quorum, right?
Yeah, because I'm the
exactly.
quorum. I'm the
Oh,
third
she would be
person.
she can't do.
I can't do two of them. I'm the
She-
third person. So
Because
there's
that's-
three for a quorum. So,
Is to take it off of you and Joanne, you follow up. on
Okay.
each of them. That's
can you do it?
that's what we used to do. We used to, the directors, we would.
Can he write to all the board members?
Yes.
Okay.
right,
But we should
But we
reply,
all
we couldn't reply to all.
Just to him.
Just to him, okay, yeah, that'll be better.
I think we need to make sure that everybody has the right email address. For some reason, one of the emails kicked back on me one time.
Okay,
So just a notice to all board members, if you could just check on the website to make sure your information is current. If not, email me individually and we'll make sure that that's taken care of.
And I'd like to remind everybody, you pay him to do this work.
right.
You guys are volunteers.
He's your staffer.
So doing all this stuff shouldn't be your work. You should be worried about, being able to come to meetings and really engaging in conversation. That's what you're, he's as my boss used to tell me, and I pay you really well to do that, you know, so I think you have to, you know, just think about that, you pay him very well to do all these things for you, you shouldn't have to be worried
For
about.
so long, we did so much stuff for our school that we just like take it upon ourselves because we have people there like, oh, they don't know how to do it, we'll just do it, you know. Yeah, right. Even David was at, what, like 3 times a week?
I never got my stipend.
Yeah, you were just, I mean, you just like, he lives at the top of the hill from walk to school, you just go down to school and check on the school and stuff. Answer principal's questions or whatever.
And that's okay. You have to have that relationship and you do, come to school when you want to and talk to people. Yeah. It was just, when you're talking to each other, it changes things.
And if you're in the
Now you have a
building,
legal status.
Right.
if they're in the building at the same time, that's quorum, so we have to ensure that they're not, right?
Three,
Yeah.
people. and
There's
they're
more
supposed
than
to
we're
know
making,
this. Yeah.
so we have to make sure, so be careful of that.
But like if we have an event like that Christmas program or whatever, or open house, then we can also post that the board will be, a quorum of the board will be at the open house.
And no action will be taken.
We
just ensure that no action, stuff like that.
And what allows you to just post it on your website is being in compliance with the Open Meetings Act, because what you do in the Open Meetings Act, and you have to actually also put this on your website and around the school, is you say when you're gonna be meeting. So everybody knows that on the second, whatever it is, second Thursday, you're meeting because your Open Meetings Act resolution says that. If it didn't say anything, then every time you have a meeting, you have to notice it in the newspaper. Okay, you have, I mean, it's a pain, but the law now, or the interpretation maybe, allows us to put it on our websites as long as our Open Meetings Act time is already in your open meeting resolution. That way everybody knows when you're supposed to meet. So that's one of the challenges when you start having special meetings and things like that. You've got to post them in compliance with whatever you say here.
Like this is a special meeting because it's our board training, but then we also threw in, hey, let's just have our February meeting while we're here, even though it's not the second Thursday, but we'll post it that way.
And your Open Meetings Act is what drives that, allows you to do that by the law, okay? Or to be legal.
Angie.
So one of the things too, in noticing these meetings, because there were non-emergency meetings, is that it's 72 hours. Is and you have to 72 hours notice. And remember, anything on your
Angie.
anything on your agenda,
Hello. We're just finishing up some of our retreat stuff.
Sounds good. I'm gonna just stay on in case Greg needs help with any questions, but I'm gonna let Greg be the main one.
Okay. Oh, sounds good. Thank you.
So
Yes.
yeah, for example, say you decide, oh, you know what, a board member says, I want to talk about the bylaws. If it wasn't on your agenda, you can't talk about it.
Oh, let me ask you a question about, okay, so I make the agenda and I say, you'll see at the board meeting, and it says, opening activities, approval of agenda, okay? For today's meeting, correct? All right, so here's the agenda, everyone looks at it, and then someone makes a motion to approve the agenda, okay? So what if they say, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda but I'd also like to add that to the agenda. You can't do that, right?
The only thing you can do is you can change the order of what's existing on the agenda.
But it's only what's existing.
Only what's existing. You cannot add anything.
So that's it. I mean, if we forgot to put like something that we needed to vote on, we could either have a special meeting for that or it'll be on the next one, but we cannot, because we've done that before. I know, we said that.
Other books have to.
Yeah, we're like, okay, did everyone approve the agenda? Well, I'm looking at the agenda and we forgot to say that. Mr. Archuleta was gonna tell us this, that, whatever. Okay, well, let's add that.
No.
We could do it with that tomorrow.
Right.
So,
I'm sorry. So let's just say, for example, we're going to executive session and, somebody, Margie brings up, says, oh, we forgot to put this in the agenda. We will go back into regular session. Could we bring that up that we forgot to add, but even at that, we still have to wait until next
Right, so executive session is also kind of tricky. In your executive session, you don't have to discuss the specific, but you have to give the topic of what you're discussing. So if it's personnel, you need to say that, or if it's, real estate, discussion, it has to be around that. It's very specific on what you're saying. And then you can only talk about in executive session, just that. You cannot bring other things up in executive session.
Okay, so we did, anything that we can't bring in an open meeting, like you said, personnel, tribal, whatever, I was like, we can discuss it. You know, personnel, we included our own personnel, but we also talked about like the licensures not getting signed or expired or whatever, because we don't want full public. What's that public thing to talk about?
It is. I mean, so here's where you have some leeway in the executive director's report. We did always put when we presented, and if you ask questions around, so say he is talking about staff certification. It is fair for you all to then ask during his report, where are we on the licensure, on the licenses of our staff? That's an appropriate
In an open meeting.
In an open meeting.
Okay.
Questions like that are appropriate, but like, because he brought it up in his report. But if he didn't bring it up, it's not appropriate. You see what
I
I'm saying?
can't ask him.
Probably not in, I mean, I think what the real key issue is not taking, not creating action items that weren't noticed. That's the biggest. And a lot of times some people say, well, we renewed our bylaws, but we didn't notice it and we need to approve them. You can't.
So Martin, you could have a board chair report
Sure.
at which you say, you know, we've had conversations around licensure. We actually talked to Mr. Kendall, we did this, we did that. So you can bring them up, okay? But you can't take any action on them.
Right.
Just advising people.
Yes.
Or
They can
sharing
ask you
information.
questions.
Yeah, yeah, like that, right.
Yeah.
And so that was the other thing that we talked about. It's not good to always decide to whether at the meeting you're gonna go into executive session or not. You need to know ahead of time. You need to know ahead of time, 72 hours at least, minimum, if you're gonna go in. And you put that in because here's the thing, if people think you're always going into executive session that says personnel, they're gonna be like, what are they talking about? Right. So that's why it has to be very intentional when you go into executive session ahead of time.
The whole time I've been on the board, it's always been on them. In executive session, we always did personnel issues, like you said. And so as the time went on and we got to that portion on the board, do we need to talk about any executive session things at this time? No, we'll go on. Yes, then we'll go in.
Right.
So that's always been like that.
Yeah, that's really not really on the Open Meetings Act.
So only if we know that we have something specific, then put it on the agenda at that time, but otherwise no.
And here's the other thing, sometimes we used to have where board members could only come for like half an hour of the meeting or 20 minutes. So what's appropriate is say, can we move all action items to the top? Just so that then you could continue your meeting, that's appropriate. You can do that, you can, or if you have a guest speaker coming in and they need to leave, can we move, you know, then someone on the board says, we move that agenda item to be next.
A lot of folks do their finance.
You know, we like to,
Because those people are gonna leave after they do their.
we've always done that, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then we said to, Joe Dan brought me something, he said, put public comments up at the top, so if someone needs to do a public comment, leave, then they can do that.
I mean, I would agree with that, and especially, usually people, what they do is they call the meeting to order, then they do their roll call forum, then they usually do, an approval of the agenda, and then the approval of the minutes, and then they go to public comment. That's typically how people run most of their.
And I always done public comment after finance, but then if this is an hour long, then that person is leaving.
Yes, and so it's just better to have the public comment done.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
And remember, when the public comes and says something to you,
Mhm.
your job isn't to try and resolve the issue. In fact, your job is not even to respond, thank you very much for for your comments. We will expect our director to meet with you if that's the case and try to resolve this issue. If that's all you need to say, because if you start getting into a back and forth, and there goes your meeting, you could be there the rest of the night, back and forth with people. And that's not helpful to them, it's not helpful to you, because you can fix their problem right then.
With that, I think it jumps into, I think here, did you have the, what's it called? The chain of command, that was what you said, right?
Yeah.
So that's what a lot of, sometimes when people come into the meetings, they just think, oh, I don't know, we're going to board, they're gonna like solve this right then and there. I really think they should go in chain of command, with the principal first, and if he can't solve it, then come to us, or, I think that's where a lot of it needs to come into play, is because, when we do have those meetings, sometimes concerns do take about an hour or two, when we're there like past 9, sometimes, and we're like, we didn't really discuss again what we really needed to discuss. We're going more back and forth kind of.
Was it one person
Yeah.
sitting there in public comments? So that's why we started during COVID when we were on Zoom, especially that people were coming on and they were just taking over the meeting and it's on Zoom, so we can't really cut them off. But so we had started putting a public comment in the chat. And then so everyone could comment, and then I said, you can say your public comment verbally after a while, but it would be like limited to 2 minutes per person.
Is it a requirement or just a suggestion that they have to?
It doesn't keep it.
So now you
It
can
does,
write
it
your
does,
process.
so that is, yeah, so your public comment now has to be in part of your open meetings resolution, what your process is for public comment. So in other words, if you're saying, each person has to sign in 2 hours before the meeting, or you know what I mean, they have to, you have to have a process for public comment now. It's a requirement in a policy, and that's something you guys decide.
And then you have it on your agenda, and everybody knows what it is.
Long time no see, man. I know, right? Longest 25 hours.
Right here, great. Thank you.
And she's on this as well. We're finishing our retreat right now. Sounds good.
So that has to go on your agenda. Every agenda always has to say the same thing, what your process is
For
for
public,
public comment.
yes,
That protects you,
it
because
does.
if somebody wants to take it over, you say,
We have-
here's our process, thank you very much. We're gonna turn it over to Logan and on to the next person who wants to speak.
It's 1, you're supposed to start their meeting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can continue this conversation during the meeting, if you'd like also. But I feel like you need to, because in case you have someone zooming in, and you've got other folks that are part of the meeting.
Maggie's here, Greg's here.
Yeah, so I think we should start your governing council.
So we do have a bit on the agenda of the open meetings act.
Yeah, but I don't know that we're
We're
gonna.
not quite ready.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite ready, because I actually, I think that they need to come up with a public comment process too.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks for coming, Greg. I was waiting for your name to pop up there and he's standing at the door.
I'm still trying to, I just was reading over something real quick. So one of the policies
And
we have.
one more thing is,
I just add that in when we get to that
Yes,
policy.
for sure.
Okay.
Oh, you mean add it for,
The proposed policy
in this agenda?
no, it's not, it's in there. I just have to put in an actual policy.
Okay.
That we're gonna do, so
Okay.
I'm gonna pull it straight from the handbook.
but yeah, one more thing is, like, remember, I don't think we got minutes from our previous meeting because we didn't have anyone to type them up, right?
I just got some from Jensen. Let me see what they look like.
If you want me to pull them and make everyone a copy really quick?
Or can we put them on
Put them
the,
on screen?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, good. Is that way you could see, because then if not, I was gonna say we can table on
Yeah, so that was our board meeting from the 16th, right?
the 16th of January.
Yeah, I have board meeting minutes right there.
I was just thinking of that. Greg, we're gonna get lunch and we're gonna bring lunch and eat here, but, we'll give you some lunch.
I'm fine as well. Thank you.
Yeah, donuts and snacks and stuff, help yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coffee, donuts. Lemonade, soda, water, or sparkling waters, regular.
I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the agenda and then it's still recording, so we'll just slide right in. Sorry, I got too many things.
And then just a reminder too, right, we have to do roll call vote.
Mhm.
That's something we have to do for
Yeah.
everything that's gonna be approved.
Yeah, so anytime now that you have anyone zooming in, there has to be a roll call vote so everybody knows who's saying what.
So just so you know, I'm gonna be taking notes today. You guys are familiar, Jensen's not with us right now. And so I'll be trying to take the minutes for this meeting. So let me just get my side all set up.
So before you start recording on for the meeting, I know that you can actually set up your meeting minutes if you take your agenda and then just save a new copy and call it meeting minutes. And then in every action item area, you just write
Promotion. I got,
who
that's
motioned,
exactly
who
how I set it
seconded,
up.
and then say all approved, and then all approved. You can actually have it written in there. If you send me your meeting minutes for the next meeting, I mean, if you send me your agenda.
With the San Diego Riverside Charter School, February 1st board meeting. We are having our February board meeting this afternoon with in person and on Zoom being recorded. I'll call the meeting to order right now at 1:15 p.m. Mountain Time, February 1st, 2025. And I'll do roll call at this time. David Toledo,
Present?
Kiani Upshot-Toya,
Present.
RG Creel, present. Susan Baca
Present.
and LaDonna Yepatoya.
Sando, present.
Sando, sorry. Excuse me. Present. Are you present?
Yes.
He's present. All right, I'm sorry. I was thinking. Okay, so we do have a quorum. All of our board members are present. And we'll do opening activities is if everyone has the agenda in front of them, it was in your folder. If you take a look at the agenda, I just need a motion and a second to approve the agenda. It's online too.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, LaDonna or Susan, was that you, Susan? Okay.
Yeah, it was me, Susan.
Bobby just made a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Kiani Upshot-Toya seconded the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is going to be on the screen. It is the approval of the minutes from our last board meeting.
You have to do roll call
Oh.
to.
Each time you vote now. Oh, we have to do. Each time you vote because it's on Zoom. That's one of the Attorney General, okay, so each time you vote, you say, so what you would do is you would say, oh, each board member, how do you vote? Okay, how do you vote for the approval of the agenda? Okay, so everybody has, we have to make sure since we're on Zoom. Susan Baca, how do you vote for the approval of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, LaDonna? You vote for the approval of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, David Toledo
Yes.
and County of Shatoya? Yes. And Margie Krill vote yes. So we're all in favor of the agenda and we'll move forward. So the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the January 16th meeting. And they'll be brought up on the screen. So if everyone could just take a minute and look at the minutes and see if there's any changes that needs to be made. Hold on for a second, we're reading it here.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the January meeting.
Yeah. Okay, Susan Baca just made a motion to accept the meeting minutes from January 16th meeting. Do I have a second?
I second it.
David Toledo. Seconded, all in favor, say, say aye. Aye. Let me see.
Aye.
Oh, Susan Baca, how do you vote? For the accept-
Yes.
Okay. And, David,
Yes.
Yanni? Yes. Margie, yes. And LaDonna, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All in, so that's a motion carried unanimously. Unanimously. So the next item on the agenda is the finance committee report. So we'll go ahead and, Greg is here to give that, and Angie's online, so go ahead, Greg, I'll let you go. Thank you for that.
Yes, so thank you, Jodianne Lovato, for bringing up the finance packet. I will into position and get to present. So this finance packet will be recapping the activities of December 2024. We have no bars or budget adjustment requests for approval. Consistency is key, so we have been keeping within our budget for the majority of our items throughout the fiscal year so far. And we're remaining consistent with the percentage of which we spend these across months. Same key follows for revenue as well.
So I was just gonna, so board members, at any time that something isn't clear, this is a really good time now to ask for clarification from your finance folks. Because, you know, since you're trusting, at the head administrator and the business folks, make sure that what they're presenting is definitely in line. So please, if anything doesn't, you want more, explanation around anything, this is the time to do that portion of the finance training.
Okay.
No worries, feel free to stop me at any point to ask questions, give points of clarity for the board members. And things you need.
And one of the things that I like to ask, is there anything, that we ought to be concerned about? Is there anything here? And maybe Kevin can respond to you, like, here's an area where we're, it looks like, maybe we're spending more than, we think we should in this area. Or you're gonna end up with a deficit in this area if you keep spending at this rate. So he can give you some guidance around what these numbers say and mean. So this is a great time to ask him those kinds of questions. Like,
Hopefully. We could go somewhere.
So bearing that in mind, does anyone have any questions, points of clarity on the rule?
About the same as we've been. So we're good. I think we're good.
there's nothing, Kevin, that's like jumping out at you that you ought to be worried about, thinking about, anything like that.
Not as of right now.
Okay.
I can clarify, my name is Greg.
Oh, great. We're gonna get Kevin.
I think I called you Kevin,
Oh.
sorry, that was my
And I
fault.
don't hear that well, so. Sorry about that. Great.
For what it's worth, I was reading over the minutes from the last meeting, they keep referring to me as Joe. I just caught that, I'm gonna have to talk to Jensen, and be like, I don't go by.
Yeah, I'm not Joe.
All right. Moving on, the same principle applies for our budgeted revenue. We are well within budget for all of the funds for which we are receiving revenue. This comes from requests for reimbursements that are given for our special revenue funds. We get our monthly SCG allocations, our food claims, and our monthly SB9 distribution. Sandoval County. Yes, we are. Questions? So this next slide, as usual, comparison by month across a few years, our spending per student. For December of 2024, we have spent remarkably less than 2023. Our YTV at this point, the amount we paid for the school year so far is beneath that as well. Our spending per student remains consistent. It's 32,906.67 mark. 58 student count. And that has decreased from previous year.
What do you think, though? Should we try to put that on? Yeah, you put your regular boots on,
What's that, Susan?
your actual jacket.
Susan? Did you have a question? Susan, I didn't hear your question.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I didn't.
All right, go ahead. So go ahead, Greg, yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
no worries. If you do have questions, you can utilize the raise hand function on Zoom and I'll
Sure.
So this will highlight different kinds of expenses that we utilize our dollars for. As we can see with this first graph, our expenditures are by and large in the classroom. We invest within our teachers and our students, take care of our administrative needs, our food service, and the maintenance of the school building. But by and large, the teachers, this reflects within salary and benefits. There's some here for supplies, contract services. As far as changes across the month, there are consistently little changes to speak of. We like to keep that consistent with our investments.
Cafeteria food services. Are we still staying on top of our food service or overspending?
We are making timely payments. I would like to. I'd like to examine further expenditures, see how we can remain within the budget through the end of the fiscal year for that fund and its functions. I know there's more food orders that come in, and there's also been work that Chriselda has been doing to keep us within kitchen compliance for PED requirements. Angie, am I missing anything with that in regards to our nutrition budget?
No, I think you got it all.
There are questions, comments about what we're seeing here? Okay. This is our monthly cash balance across all of our funds. For December, we ended off on $406,952. And we're on liquidity of 3.18 for operational. So we are in healthy standing to make sure our quick bills that need to be paid are paid. This is from salaries to utilities to pay the uses by which the school functions. Telephone usage. Supplies.
What they said, we've been paying a lot of money on this month and this winter is propane, right? You see a lot of money paid on propane.
Yes, propane usage did increase with it getting colder and inflation going up. It's good to exercise some conservation in the usage of propane, similar with electricity. How are we?
Will there need to be any kind of budget adjustment in the future if the propane costs continue to be where they are, or is there plenty in that line item cover the year?
We have budgeted enough to cover that particular expense throughout the fiscal year. If on a function basis, we find that we need to get something adjusted, that'll be something for Angie and I to examine within our data and then bring to the board for approval as it becomes law.
And I'll have some information on some, updates and upgrades to, with regard to, our new heating units.
I think you'll do that during your report.
This is a summary of the checks that we have cut during the month. If there are any that are not routine checks that are cut or unusual, I will make notes of what is mentioned. If they are higher dollar amounts that are significant, then I'll make mention of that as well. For example, Ingalls and Landers, excuse me, for $19,000. This was for all the work done for fiscal 24 audit. Just the one payment was made. An internal revenue service here are EFTPS payments from Medicare, Social Security, and federal tax. This one saw a higher increase for the 5th There was a routine payroll that occurred as well as a final special payroll separately for Mr. Tony Archuleta. That was his last payroll that he was part of. Similarly, the final payroll of the month occurred here on a routine basis. And there was another final payroll for Ms. Wilma Chupin. Actually, her last day was December 31st. From that perspective.
Other than that, there's nothing really unusual other than the regular, monthly payments, right? Bills and stuff.
That's correct. And then this version of the check report goes into detail about what expenditures were paid when, coding that was used, invoice numbers, and other financial information that I wrote down.
All of our line items that you're showing now of everything that we have in our budget.
Yes.
For this 1 month.
Yes.
Payroll.
There are a lot of funds, codes, and combinations thereof that are involved. Yeah. With that in mind, does anybody have questions about how some of that works? Any clarity to provide on these codes?
I don't today, but probably in the future, have to go over that a little bit deeper.
Okay. Sounds good. The account summary report. comes up next to take a look at how we're standing across all of our funds on a functional level. So we start off with operation. So we start off with the revenues. We'll go across our operational, transportation, so on and so forth. Actuals here, do you know what activity occurred? So for example, we got our monthly SEG, that was 9,752.19. We have food claim reimbursement back. State funds.
You were getting Medicaid too, right? Yeah.
Yes, we did get a Medicaid reimbursement from the end of FY 24.
Goodness, that was wild.
The tax distribution from state government. Covered, we now have the same deal, but for our expenditures, so much. Statement of revenues and expenditures that cover all all those pages, has a concise summary of revenue and expenditure activity across the funds in a different style of display. Having our fund balance at the bottom, seeing where we're at. Top section will highlight the routine things of revenue that we get. And these are the functions by which our expenditure and
I just want to interject, one of the things that is required is that you have a finance committee and an audit committee. That's comprised of not a quorum of board members, but at least 2 board members. Typically, under finance committee, what a lot of schools do is they use like before meetings. And then that way you don't necessarily have to go through all the, finance committee goes through all those docs, with the finance people. And then they make a recommendation, and usually they have administrator is included in that finance. So people do it, some people do it, like at the school where we were just reporting at the first trail last week. They meet at a different time. They have work sessions that are set up for every 2 weeks or once a month. So, another school that I was at, we used to do like our board meetings used to start at 5. We would go to finance committee at 4:30. It just, that way, because they're on the board, at the time that they met with the finance committee, then that board person would come on and say, we just saw the finances and everything else in order. Yep. And that we just go from there and we don't do this. We don't have, I mean, what we would do is we would share still some of the docs, but it would go by fast. Because you still have to go through, the bars and the board, the finance committee can't, the bars, the board must do. But the finance committee makes the recommendation, they do a more thorough review. The business manager, yeah. So that's something that I think that you guys meet on the finance committee? Not yet. You have to. We have that. There's just 2 committees, just the audit committee and the finance committee. Now, you can have additional committees if you would like for that, and that's in your bylaws. But the requirements under statute are finance and audit. And audit usually only meets, you do an entry audit meeting, and that's usually, 1 board member, community of the parents, are usually on there, and the head administrator and the business folks. And then there's, then they get, what the findings are, right? And then I don't think have you guys gotten your audit results yet? Oh, they said that they were going to come in January, but I was at the exit current in November, but I haven't heard anything at all. Okay, so you guys should reach out to the auditors if you can. They have them.
Yeah, so they gave us our audited financials, and there was a list of findings that was comprised.
Okay. So that can't, you can go to only the audit committee, I can look at that right now, because that can't be made public until they really get to see the auditor releases that, and it's usually in February. Okay, so if they release it, okay, so now we're having a February meeting, and if Joe Dad gets the audit results and financials and all that, then we can put that in our March meeting and tell everybody about what the audit comes out. The audit committee can look at the findings. You just can't talk about it. Yeah. Because the school and the business owners have to respond to the audit findings. You have a certain, you have to respond to most of them, whatever they are. And then that's what's presented at the March meeting, is what the audit findings were and how the school responded. Okay. So that's out there. So you might want to be thinking about committee members in terms of the finance and the audit.
And they have their committees, they have their members.
We just have to make our meeting time. Yeah.
All of you can share with your finance committee members things that are important to you. Let's say that you want to make sure that there's a certain line item that you want them to really look at very closely all the time. That way they come back and report to you around that specific issue. So you all can decide, you know, how much information you want and need. And share that with your finance committee folks. A lot of the finance committee members, what they do is they go through and they look at things that look like they're kind of, you know, something doesn't feel right. So can we talk about that in the finance committee? And then they come back and they say, board members, we discussed this issue. Here was the resolution. It looks like everything is fine, but I just wanted to keep you updated on that. So that's how you work with your committee, is you decide what you want them to really focus on. If you want somebody who is willing to take a look at all this detail, besides Kevin and Greg. Besides, he knows the detail. If you want somebody who's also willing to look at that detail, you know, in your finance committee, because it's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Well, and usually your head administrator looks at it too. Is looking at it for the fine. I mean, I did. I was that person. I was the one that asked, and I would even ask during board meetings. So, because you know, sometimes something comes out before you and your finance person meet. I would point blank ask in front of the board questions as well. Just because I needed, and not just because we needed to know because things were happening so fast. Okay. So that's all.
Balance sheet report. Going to the assets, liabilities, and fund balance, also funds for the month.
She really tells you, like,
You would say what's encumbered, and how much is left, and that like percent left of that fund or something.
So it gives an examination of what all activity has occurred, not necessarily encumbered, unless I'm mistaken. And Angie, feel free to jump in at any time if there's. Just in case, Angie, if at any point I'm missing anything or there's further clarification be needed, feel free to jump in and shout.
No, it's pretty, you're doing good.
Well, she asked about what is it, balance sheet encumber, like where we are up to date on
A balance sheet would not show what's encumbered. It shows the actuals of what's happened.
what's happened for that one specific month, right?
Up to a balance sheet would show, I'm looking at the specs as of the end date. So it's, it would be July all the way to December because you guys are reviewing December right now.
Okay.
Encumbrance balance.
Encumbrances will only show on that accounts balance, the ones that you were showing before with a lot of line codes. That's the only one that will show encumbrances. The statement of revenue and expenses is kind of like that report is kind of like an income statement. That's the closest you can get to one for government entities because we don't make money, we're given money. But that's kind of like a profit loss showing what's spent and what's brought in. Yeah, that report. And then a balance sheet report is just you can just see where everything is on all the funds. What has been spent as of December 31st for the whole year.
I like to think of encumbrances as money that's slotted to be used, although not necessarily yet.
And I don't know who had said it before, but I did hear someone say it. The board meetings can run quicker once you have the committees. Like if finance committee meets before and goes over this, then the only thing finance would report during the meeting is finance committee met any concerns they might have had, how it was addressed, and then you just approve the cash disbursements for the prior month, and the bank reconciliation, and then you approve the bar numbers. But since we don't currently, the school doesn't currently meet separate for a finance committee meeting, it's kind of like you're doing that right now. So that's why it's a longer report. But Greg or I would go to the finance committee and give this whole report. So it would make this meeting, the presentation shorter, where we're just quickly going through it and not line by line.
Still in the future though.
Yes. Mhm.
Do we vote on it then?
It's already nothing to know.
Oh, no, you don't need to vote. This is just for the training for your governing board training piece.
Because you already approved it last month.
Okay, yeah, we already, okay.
Yeah.
This is not nice.
Okay. Okay.
So the last portion is the bank account reconciliation for December. Wants to note is that these match the bank statement from our bank. And that following activities that occurred, it ties out to a $0 difference with our expected general ledger, actual general ledger. Making sure that we are keeping accurately. And this is the bank's version of, and this is another version of summing up all that data detail.
And then Greg showed them for the bank reconciliation, that report, the one page that just shows that it balances. That's the most important part. That means that any journal entries that needed to be hit, that needed to hit the bank account did. Yes, that right there. That's what they should be looking for, that it balances.
Move on then, since we've already approved this.
Yes, this report was approved at the last board meeting, just because this is the 1st of February, so there was no way to get January's books done in time because the bank statement hasn't even been released by the bank yet.
I think it's around the 10th of the month, I believe, right? Around in there.
Yes, something like that. So in March, I'm sorry, yes, in March's meeting, you can approve February and January's financials, just due to the board meeting being on the 1st of February.
If anybody have any questions, you said we don't have to do any action items. We had any action items on this finance committee report while we're here, but does anybody have any questions on it or anything? Or, no? I guess that's all.
Just interject a little back on,
Yeah.
back on the agenda.
Uh-huh.
On the agenda, you didn't have any action items, okay? But let's say that you were to have a budget adjustment request. Okay, some more specificity. When you look at your meeting agenda on the Open Meetings Act, it says include a list of specific items. Okay? And then it says clearly describe the agenda items. What you want to do is make sure that if somebody looks at your agenda, they can understand what you're going to do. So if all it says is approval of a bar, you're like, why are you approving a bar? Do we need alcohol in the school?
They don't get it.
But if they say, but we're gonna approve a budget adjustment to move money from this to this because of unanticipated costs or something. So that people, when they read it, they understand what it is. And I'll give you an example of somebody who tried to do that, and you can see what they said. They had on their agenda that they were going to approve a bar to support the acquisition of their new building. I called them, I said, so when did you decide to have a bar and use that money from your bar to buy a building? You guys have a bar that are you gonna sell? Is it gonna be packaged? Is it gonna be what? Because it said bar. Okay? If I'm a person from the community and I read that, I'm like, what are you guys doing over there? So so it's gotta be more specific on all your agenda items, not just this one.
Because we posted it on our website, and like you said, 99% of the parents don't come to the board meeting, so they don't know what we do. Some staff comes, some parents come, but like, otherwise they won't know what that means, like it's a budget adjustment, so.
Budget adjustment and what it is.
For the agendas, if the person that's helping with the training, I believe you only need to write approval of bars, and you wouldn't want to list the bar numbers on the agenda in case we might have a bar right right before the meeting that came up that we can get approved, but you can explain it in the meeting. But all the other schools I've dealt with, they don't go into like, this bar is for the building, this bar is for teachers. You just have to list that you're going to approve bars or budget adjustment requests, which is what bars stands for.
Right, but if you look at the Open Meetings Act, which is what governs your meeting, the Open Meetings Act is very clear. If somebody looks at your agenda, they need to be able to understand what it is. Now, you don't need to write a paragraph, but enough information so that they understand what that agenda item is. Just saying it's a bar does not tell me as the public anything. Okay, it's a budget adjustment request. Okay, what does that mean?
So that they could refer. We always put we keep a hard copy notebook of each bar, and we put C attached. So then how we were guided by our bookkeeper, our accountant, was to put the entire number of the bar, and whether it was like, an initial bar or, the ID, whatever the acronym is for that, and then put C attached, and then we have the documents to be able to go to support why the money is being moved in that sense. So that's how we did it.
It's all about transparency, right?
Well,
Yeah.
we will make sure to do that because like they said before, this is a generic, actual like board agenda. We just changed like the dates and the times and like, but for the most part, we've always had the same kind of type of agenda. And we've never been like super specific about anything. And you're right, this gets posted to maybe that's why they do this on a Open Meetings Act. And to me, I was upset because I thought, why would we get dinged? We post it 72 hours in advance, we post the agenda, whatever, but maybe because we weren't so specific, I'm not sure.
So you can post the agenda and the financial report if you want to on the website beforehand with the other documents, because the first page of K-12's agenda report, it actually lists the bar numbers and what like fund they're going into, and that should suffice giving the public more information on what the what's going to be approved in finance.
It says here, for your meeting minutes, this is what's in statute right now. It says meeting minutes. If the meeting is open, written minutes are required. Minutes must contain at least the date, time, and place of the meeting, and the names of all members of the public body attending the meeting and of those members who are absent, and description of the substance of all proposals considered during the meeting, and a record of any decisions made and votes taken that shows how each member voted.
Yeah, so we need to go back actually and, we could do it really quickly after this. We need to make sure we recognize, Diego and Vanessa and any other folks that are in the room. To make sure that we recognize, so it's not, like I said, transparency. Right?
Well, wait, and this one says the names of all members of the public body, which is attending the meeting and of those members who are absent.
Oh, so it doesn't need to be any.
Yeah. Public comment, and you had like 100 people come,
Yeah.
you wouldn't put all that in your agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Usually after the board does their attendance, you say, and our guests are, and then you would say, Greg from K-12 would say Greg from K-12, and then Joe Dan would say Joe Dan, executive director of the school. They kind of list their guest appearances after the board does their attendance.
You could, because we're speaking at the meeting, Yeah, but I mean, if you, let's, you don't have to put the issue in front of the public. You don't have to put the issue,
Oh.
she's not participating.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm just going off how we did.
She's not my way on.
Put her on the spot after we leave. There was a question I've been asked. Yeah.
Some people don't participate, you should report on your minutes.
Yeah.
But just that people are attending.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate it, Greg, Angie. Thank you as usual.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Andy.
Very comprehensive.
You beat you finally in person.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
You'll just give me 1 second. I actually need to go and take something from website and add it, but,
And then if I'm not needed anymore, I was going to log off. But if you need me to come back on, Joe Dan, just text message me and I can come back on.
awesome. Thank you, Angie. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
The items on the agenda, I think I could go into public comments. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Have a limit of 2 minutes per person, for anyone who wants to speak or ask or say anything in the public comment. We don't have anything on the agenda for public comments, but. Okay, there's no public comments. So.
I think Kevin will come.
Kevin?
I'm sorry, who's Kevin again?
He's absent. The next item on the agenda is the principal's report. The principal's report by Joe Dan Lovato. If you want to go ahead and get started with your report.
Sure, let me go ahead and get this screen here. Try to show the right thing. Oh, God. A little bit bigger. I'm realizing I'm really in need of glasses, so my apologies. Some of what we have here for the report, it's going to be some of the stuff we went over last month, but I also didn't want to rehash everything. A lot changes in just a few weeks, so I want to make sure that we're as current as possible. So again, some of the items that are in process. The visit went well when we had the DEC come through, Charter School Division come through. Very supportive and provided good insight and guidance on items, such as our 90-day plan, epicenter, and school safe plan. They did create a special committee for us, and we're supposed to meet with them on February the 5th. Those are the things that I'm trying to work on right now, and what I've been really working on this entire week. I'm getting it now when folks tell me when you step into this position, don't try to take everything on at one time. And I've definitely been drinking out of the fire hydrant, to put it lightly. My focus really has been on getting things in compliance, so that I can start focusing more on our data, as we start to get more of it. Again, that was our conversation this morning. But trying to get into the classrooms more. That's really my main goal. I want to be up front. I want to be more hands-on, and it's been really kind of challenging for me, especially, my mental state, to be at a desk for the last 6 weeks and really look at safety plans, 90-day plans, epicenter, policies. I mean, just trying to make sure that I'm taking care, because my goal is to get to this next thing, which is our annual site visit March the 3rd. I want to be able to show the folks at Charter School Division, Public Education, and the PEC that we've got everything in compliance, right? That's my way of kind of getting them kind of off our back for a little bit, so that again, I can focus on being in the classroom more with teachers, focus more on students. My goal as an administrator is not to be in the office. My goal is to be to the entire school. The last a couple of weeks have been great because I come out from the desk. I wanted to show you a picture. I can show you afterwards, but they had pajama day yesterday. I know some folks are like, we didn't know. So part of this is the communication and we're gonna get that out and I'll talk about that in a bit. But I showed up in my onesie and the kids were like, what? And I said, oh, you're gonna realize what you have here. I believe in practicing what you preach and I believe in being part of the process. That's just my style. I'm not saying that that has to be everyone else's, but I'm very, very invested and I want to make sure that I'm participating in anything that our kids, see as being part of that culture. And so, I told them, I'm sorry, I'm probably gonna have to miss the Valentine's dance because I'm gonna be out for a funeral on that day, and I'll make sure I let the business office know so we can do that accordingly. Otherwise, I'd be out there dancing and having a good time because I want the kids and I want the teachers to know that they should be a part of that. Right? I think we get stuck in that rut of we do this for the kids, but what they don't understand is it's important for us to participate. Show them.
That's what other schools, they have like activities week and like tie-dye day, crazy hair day, and it's good to see the teachers participating in it.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the teachers' participation has been pretty good. There's a few folks that choose not to, but yesterday, I was only here for, like, say, for a handful of Fridays, and that's usually when they do their spirit day. And I think little by little, folks, the other day I didn't know, it was Crazy Socks Day, and I said, you know how many pairs of crazy socks I've got? And you didn't tell me, right? But part of it too is communication, and I'll get to that, but my goal again is to get to this March 3rd. And really show them that we've got things in compliance. So I'm hoping to have that 90-day plan, which is past due, our school safe plan, which is past due, and our rest of our epicenter stuff, which is gonna be a policy that we vote on here in a bit. I can start closing the books on those things. And I've just wanted to make sure we're in compliance. Those are some big things that are important. Okay. So again, the annual site visit is gonna be March the 3rd. We have a little bit of guidance. I'll send the guidance manual that they send out to schools. I'll make sure that the board has that this week. And I would say, anticipate on being part of a focus group. They usually ask what 2 to 3 members if they can, at least. Let's see here. We've got our rave panic button that we're still trying to get up and running. We're gonna have Jensen working on that and trying to ensure that we have the abilities to continue our initiative of being safe. That's the first and foremost thing that I think should be on all of our minds is creating a safe campus. I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit once we get to the bottom. There's some things on the agenda that transpired this week after we did one of our first drills. We're also behind in our drills. We're supposed to have 4 drills in the first 4 weeks of school. I found out that we only did 1. But these are things that I don't know until I get to that point and I start uncovering them, right? So we're going to play catch up. We're going to try to make sure we're compliant with those, but we did do a shelter in place, and I'll talk about that here in a second. Teacher evaluations are on their way. We might discuss at a certain point about doing our own evaluative system going into next year, but for right now, again, for the compliance sake, we want to make sure that we're in the right spot. This is what we have in place. It's been great working with the public education department. They've done a handful of check-ins for us. Our teachers have taken the opportunities to go in and make sure that their PDPs and their beginning of the year, middle of the year reflections are thorough. I'm going to start doing observations during the month of February. I've been in and out of classes, but I'd like to spend a little bit more time. I was actually a part of a focus group this past week with 2 other leaders in the state, one from Red River, and the other one was from, my goodness, I forgot now. The other one was from down south somewhere, I think like Las Cruces. And it's something that, as a new leader, I need to hear what other leaders are doing. And in my mind, I want to spend more time in the class than I probably should. But, she brought up, she said, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just pop in, take a look around and everything. I'm doing that, but I think I just need to structure that a little bit more. And, in my mind, I'm thinking I need to do this full observation of the entire lesson. And then I'm just realizing, no, I just need to see how things are going. Pop in at any time. I don't want any surprises. I want to get to the point to where when I step into the classroom, I don't want teachers to feel like I'm there punitive. I want to build the culture and the trust with them to understand if I step in, that it's not like I got you, that I'm trying to catch you with something. I'm there to support, I'm there to observe and see things maybe they don't see. And, I've already got maybe 1 or 2 teachers, which is pretty much half our staff, that are very comfortable with me being in their classes at any given time. And, You can tell because I have been in classes where they're doing what they're not supposed to be doing. And it's, they freeze in the moment, oh, you're in the headlights, oh, like, what are you doing here? And then they try to sidetrack. These other teachers are just, they're pros. I step in there, and, hey, Joe, I can see. And they do, and that was how I was as a teacher too. I didn't care who was in my class, and I told them something the other day. I said, you need to teach as if their parents are sitting in class, right?
Right.
We teach as if their parents are sitting in class every single day. Because then you're gonna hold yourself to a certain degree of accountability. That's something that's important for me, and it's something that we have to build. We do have to build it. IXL. I'm excited to say that we did our first training yesterday for IXL, and there was something new called groups that I wasn't able to sit through. That I was meeting with another staff member at the time, but I did pop in to see who was taking advantage of it. We had a couple of EAs that were in and out. Again, I didn't require that for the EAs because I want the teachers to
You
use
tell
that.
the board what IXL is, what it means and what it is.
Yeah.
Software.
IXL is a computer software that helps support math, reading, or ELA, science and social studies. Also, there's other things like Spanish, you know, which we're gonna talk about how we can support some of our students that need those programs through IXL. But it's a program that kind of, you can use it as how would I say, remediation. You can use that as enrichment. One of the new features that they have is that it gauges, gives them an assessment, kind of takes a baseline of where they're at, and it tailors modules specifically to where they're at. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier, it's important because they still don't, they're really lacking a lot of the foundational skills they need, but at the same time, they are going to be taking state assessments that are at their grade level. So again, I call it burning the fuse on both ends. We need to make sure that they're exposed to grade level content, but we still also have to make sure we're fostering that skill set that they're lacking. So IXL is going to really help us do that, and especially for when we have like our celebration days, our cultural days, and we have to go to asynchronous learning on some of those days. Now we have a really sheltered program where they're getting math and reading and social studies and science, where we can assign that to them on top of what they're learning within their cultural experience.
Every Chromebook is going to be equipped with that piece of software, and then you can have them pull it up and do the lesson on the asynchronous day or whatever.
Yeah. And I think, you know, one thing I really like about it is there are times where you get folks, especially substitute teachers, that I have a really terrible experience with a substitute teacher where I had to go, I had a perforated eardrum and I had to get to the doctor. So we called a sub in one time and I left a thorough plan. I was really on a tight timeline. You know, I couldn't waste any time. I said, I just need you to make sure you review this worksheet with them, get these. It was very simple stuff. I left, got up to the car, forgot something, and I came back and it was probably a 3-minute span. I walked in, the kids were throwing a party and they had a movie rolling. And I looked at my son and I said, what are you doing? I left my stuff there. And he said, hey, I didn't want to do it. So I think what IXL is really good about is in the event that somebody does step in, we don't know, right? When we get to the point, at least we have something structured and we can monitor it. So that if there is something where teachers come in, and I would rather them say, get on IXL for this entire time, let's do reading, as opposed to just let's move on, just surf the internet. Get on YouTube.
Yeah, we've seen that before, so.
We have to, I mean, there's something that my previous head administrator, my previous boss at Turquoise Trail, Chris Ida, used to say that I really like to take on. He'd say, school time, class time is sacred. It's sacred time, and I liked how he put that, and that was something that I like what Mr. Ida said. Think about that. This is sacred time for us, guys.
We have this amount of time.
Yeah,
to
our
teach
time
that
is
one
limited.
lesson.
And I like the idea of saying that it's sacred for us.
Because you'll never get it back again.
We don't, exactly. Let's see, so we're embarking on that. We have our new heating and cooling systems. I'm gonna rely on you all to see what we have to do on this, because I understand something came up in the bylaws that we might need to talk at some point about purchases, to be honest, right now. I know we already got the approval for the 1 unit. And my apologies for kind of going jumping the gun on this. I know we're gonna have to probably fix this somehow. But the other unit was also going out, and they gave us a really good deal to go ahead and install both units. And the purpose behind that is the back part of the school. It's a slant divide. Like if we would divide this room from that corner to this corner. Only it slants off on the back side to where Miss Jasmine's classroom is and Miss Pecco's classroom is, and those two little offices.
and it goes into the hallway, but the hallway was super cold. And it retains the coldness. I know Greg was there a couple of times and I had parents walk in, like, oh my God, it's freezing in the
And then
building.
that back door would open and shut.
Yes.
The playground, open and shut.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Jasmine's door, open and shut.
And it's just like so inefficient, which I'll talk about, like what some of the things I've observed there. But the hallways, you know, it's important because like the efficiency is if we're not getting everything heated or cooled in the same way, it's pulling or it's overexerting what it needs to do. And it's kind of battling each other. And so in my mind, if we split that hallway up with those classrooms, it's pushing way too much for that, the rest of that to get heated or cooled. And it's not gonna be efficient. We're pushing it way more than it needs to. And so I went ahead and made the call to install 2 units. They gave us a good deal. The total was about 19,800. They took $1,800 off of the total cost that we would have done otherwise paid for 2 of them. And so each unit came in at just a little bit over.
And I pushed back
90.
because I thought it was too much, but we checked other places and it was actually the best deal that we.
It was, and I still think I need to get some quotes. I know, typically we need to send out, 2 or 3 quotes.
Yes, 2 or 3, they can be formal documents, can be emails, can be phone calls, conversations. Yeah, as long as we get 3.
And I know you have
I had
Tony's,
to-
and it's usually over $20,000. This one was 19,800, so I said, and I know, I like what Teresa said when we were talking, she's like, oh, I would always try to tell vendors, try to come in under $20,000, because then I don't have to go around and waste my time with quotes. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, and so that saved us,
Yeah, this is a good, training piece. Most, charter schools and most, boards, they don't get involved in the finance approval of, it's usually under procurement. You have to board approval of 60,000 or more. You have to have board approval before you can even move forward on that. With the 20,000, that's usually just for head administrators to work with their budget office and getting, 3 different quotes. And it doesn't mean, so just, when you hear 3 different quotes, it doesn't mean you get the cheapest one.
Right.
You just get 3 quotes. Because you don't always have to, because sometimes there is a place that's better and they may charge a little more. And we were able, you didn't have to get it, because you want to get the best quality for your students as well. So you don't always have to go with the cheapest, you just have to get the quality quotes.
So that's good. That's what he told me. And I said, he goes, well, I really don't need your approval. I'm just letting you know.
But-
Because it was
But I
less
do.
than 60,000.
hey, what I do.
Bylaws,
Yeah, $2,500, see, oh, so you do need our
But
approval.
but technically we approved the 10,000.
Yeah, we
On
did.
the last one, so there, I don't know how we approach this on maybe just doing an increase. Which is what we did, right? We originally had the quote and it's the same company. And we just requested the increase.
What happened was that he found out is that, okay, so we can fix all the area for 9,800 that we approved at our last board meeting. But we found out that the heater also, was out the main hallway. So that's the second unit. All the other classrooms that go off of the main hallway is fine, but the main hallway is still cold. That needs a separate unit. So that's the other like $9,000.
say, I don't know how much the board wants to get into the minutia of approving $2,500 requisitions, because that will really detain your school, your head of the matter from getting moving to do anything.
No, we
We're
don't,
gonna have to
want
do
to do that.
special sessions
Yeah,
every other.
no, we don't, the reason we did that before is because we had a business manager and it wasn't like a firm, like Kate was a lady. And we found out later that she was doing the, business books, like her own checkbook. Okay. So then that's why it came down to the 2,500, because we had to see
Which
what
makes
is,
sense.
yeah. But now we have a big firm that's helping us and they can text things that they see, and then she wasn't doing the drawdowns for the first. So she was just minusing like her checkbook. And it got us in a lot of trouble because we were $250,000 in debt and we had one drawdown for that, like our reimbursement drawdown or, any of that. So, and we got rid of her, we went to a different firm and then we ended up with the total. But yeah, we would actually change those bylaws so that give you more leeway than 2,500.
Yeah, and of course,
Work directly with our business office.
and I'm gonna keep everybody, I'm gonna always report to Margie as the chair.
any purchases that I'm making that are large, whether they're 2,000, whether they're 20, whatever it is, right? Even if it's not above the threshold, I'm always gonna make sure that
Well,
you guys are.
And so that's a really good finance committee conversation to have too. Like in your finance committee, you can really talk about it with whoever represented on the finance committee. And then,
And he's really diligent to see if we even have that kind of money before he even starts to talk about purchasing anything. So call up Greg Gregory, do we have that kind of money? Oh, yeah, we have SB9 covers that. Let's do it. Okay, let's do it like that.
And we didn't expend it. I don't want to expend anything, you know, unless it's something that we can't roll over to next year. But I know, like you said, when I talked to Greg, I'm like, hey, is this gonna wipe us out, or do we still have something in there in the event that something else occurs? And again, because they know their stuff real well, and Greg is very kind about answering me, even sometimes when he's in the middle of other people's meetings. I'll get out of that bad habit, sorry, Greg. I'll text you more often, I'll give you an answer. Yeah. Yes. That's your claim.
So that your attorney will take a look at that in bylaw review.
Okay.
And give you a better amount there that complies with the law. But he'll also advise you all that if you want to do it, you know, at a different level, you can. And you can have that conversation. You know, maybe it's 40,000 or 50,000, but the law requires 60,000. So he'll tell you, here's what it has to be, and then you have some latitude. For instance, if you want to bring it down a little or whatever. That,
what's your overall school budget? What did they get from SDG every year?
That SCG that just came in was 90,000. Oh, no, not.
Oh, I mean, what is their budget?
Yeah, the monthly was 90,000. That gets multiplied by 12 to add up to, let me run a number real quick. Yes, and that also factors in our other funds as usual. One more.
We just have to keep in mind, we over,
For small schools, so the board may want to lower the amount a little bit. I mean, that you gotta take that into consideration. I was working at a $2.7 million.
What are we, 1.2?
For SEG, we're nearly 1.1.
Okay.
1.2. But yes, helps us scale to the needs of the school, keep the class time sacred, and keep investments within the classroom rather than getting tangled up in the nitty-gritty business office.
but part of my concern too is that we do over project with our student numbers, right? And then we also had, and we also had transportation funds that are gonna be taken back too. And so I know they've done a really good job of looking at that and saying, hey, I know when I talked to Angie, hey, just keep in mind, we're gonna be losing this money. So these are purchases I felt comfortable with doing because not the necessity, but I also felt like it wasn't gonna hamper, especially with some of the staff that have retired, some of them that have resigned.
I was gonna say, if you're not fully staffed, you have cost savings right now.
And we had propane delivered like Christmas Eve, was it? And then when we got back after Christmas, we had to have propane delivered again. And that propane, $2,300 every time we filled that propane tank, and it's down again.
So yeah, and that was gonna
This
lead me to.
eliminates, the heaters were on propane, this will eliminate.
Well, it's gonna help, the other side of the school, the front part of the school is still run by propane. And so what I'm, just gonna put it out there right now, in September, when we get our funding, in August. We'll look at it and see, I think we should probably upgrade those for two reasons. Number one, they're inefficient. And the inefficiency, the second part of that is, we're not able to seal those completely. Heat rises. So we're losing that heat and we're having to put more into it. So figure at the bare minimum, almost every 2 weeks, $2,300 in propane.
So 3 times.
And we had that secondary propane. That was one propane thing. The secondary propane was running just those two in the back. The portable is already electrical. And so, it'll be an increase obviously in electrical, but they're highly efficient units. I mean, as they told us when they installed in their town, the teacher, you got the best. Those washing units are 4 tons. They work in minus 15 degree or minus 13 degree weather. And once we get them running at an efficient level, we should see it's not going to be the 2,300 a month for propane. So I'd say over the next 2 years, once we start to phase that in, our cost on just that gas is going to start to come down a little bit. Now, of course, electrical is always going to go up, right? At that point, I would say like year 3, just where my mind's at, and I've always tried to talk to schools about this, we might want to talk about solar at that point, right? right? Because these are all investments on how you can sustain your school,
Why?
and it's not our building.
That's what I'm saying. My problem is it's not our building and we're like making it all efficient.
Yeah.
But he said it's not something that we can build our own building, that we can't pull it out.
Well,
and take it
those
with us.
things
We'll
look.
Take it with us. We paid for it, yeah.
Right? And so, and the reality of it is, there's no other viable option for us to go. I'll tell you, we were talking, I was talking with one of the other, leaders, and I said, we're in the high school to be, so that we can just run our own thing, right? We can do our thing. But for right now, I don't see that happening anytime soon. That's a 7 to 10 year project, I think, in not a short term. For right now. what
We have
can do-
18 acres in San Isidro.
So we might want to look and see what's viable with that. We wouldn't be able to do it alone, and that'll go into, another conversation with how we're gonna have to work with Wallachville and Dollar Charter School. Not that they're merging anything anytime soon, that's a conversation we would probably have once we get to renewal, to see what the sustainability is, depending on where we're at and where they're at in the school. But right now, I'll be honest, the hardest thing is being on other people's property. And they're signing over lease, they're not giving us a lease agreement, they're giving us extensions. That kind of gives them, I mean, really, the governors could show up at any time and say, pack your bags, get out, find another building. We're not gonna find another building. That's the way I interpret it. No. And if they do, I guess we'll just take our heaters and kick rocks on the side of the road. But, I'm always a big fan of it. We're gonna put stuff in. We wanna do the things that if we do come across the availability to build, and expand outside of where we're at right now, we wanna take that stuff with us. We purchased it as long as it's public, right? But we wanna make sure that that goes to them and doesn't stay for them. So anything that I'm proposing here, just keep in mind, even the small things, which I'm gonna talk about doorknobs here in a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right,
You gotta- Go ahead, yeah.
let's see here. So the Google accounts, we were talking about communication. We need just a better way of sharing calendars. And it's easier to keep things in a digital calendar. We want to be able to see all of our IEPs scheduled on a calendar, all of our sporting events, all of our school events, all of our cultural events that are going on the calendar. Because what I've seen in the small school, even especially, we didn't get the message. We didn't get the, this is supposed to be coming in on Monday. It's free as of right now. There's an expansion that we might have to purchase, but we're gonna see what our school needs are first. We're gonna get the basics. Really, I just need one email system, Google Drive, so that we can actually open documents from the state, which is hard to open with the emails that we have, set up right now. And again, having access to a calendar that everybody has,
And can that same calendar be put on the website?
that would be an internal calendar.
Oh, okay, it's internal.
Yeah, I mean, I would defer to you. That should be an internal calendar, right? Yeah, the public one is the one that we actually have up there, and we'll do a better job of placing certain things. And we can start doing, there's an announcement board already on our website. We just need to start utilizing that. That's something, we need to kind of do a little bit of an overhaul on our website. It's a little bit difficult to navigate.
We need
And-
somebody to help us to build.
And we'll look to see what we can do on that end. But, school maintenance, we're in the process of identifying a vendor to fix some of the doors, of the cafeteria. I'm waiting to hear back from West Mesa Lock and Safe. They're supposed to come and fix the cafeteria door that's in the front. And the doors that are at the back of the main building. Obviously, that's a big fire issue, safety issue, because, we're using the bike
With a
chains
bicycle
around that.
chain.
Because you can literally walk up to them and pull them open. And there's nothing I can do from the inside. The only way to lock them is to put that there, but during the school day, we have to have those off. In the event that something does happen, we need to have that as a backup. You can't keep that locked. So they're gonna come out, they're gonna look at that. We also found out that the computer, there's some really nice computer cards in there. Right when I came back, I said, hey, can I grab some computers? I said, go ahead. And I went over there and I tried to open it. So what's going on? They said, we've never found the keys to this damn thing. I said, so there's valuable resources in there. There's chargers and computers and everything, these nice charging cards, and you don't have the key to it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have West Mesa go in there and try to get in there, because if they don't, by mid this month, I'm gonna go and throw off the lock. I was ready to do it, and I said, let me do it the right way. I know, man, I wanna take this serious here. And so, yeah, additionally, we're gonna look at replacing doorknobs in each classroom. We had a fire,
a drill this week and some of the, law enforcement came in. And one of the things I didn't even realize is we're not ADA compliant. So just not even just the safety thing, but they're all around.
She hurt.
They're-
He's told us wheelchair, yeah. Her son's been in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
He's
they're,
18, but he went to school K through 8 there.
Really?
Every time she asked us.
it's gotta be pretty much those doorknobs on there. And one of the doors doesn't even shut. We were actually in the middle of think about our shelter in place, all the doors have to close. They were laughing at me because I was over there. I passed by it and I'll play, hey, and I go over there and I slam it again and you know, it was like, what's going on with this door? I was about to give it a drop kick, man, and then finally Miss Belma came over and she said, that door's never closed properly. And I said, okay, we have to get that fixed.
Yeah.
So,
They have the tap door, that you push a button.
yeah, and that would be really for the front, definitely for the front entrance. We'll talk about that too, because we've talked about a little bit about the scan cards that they have at some of the schools.
Oh, you have the
for
batteries.
entrance. We want to try to get cameras, and I'm looking at grants, just so you know.
Oh, the cameras, we
Yeah.
had cameras on.
We're looking, and some of these things, to be honest with you, they're not that expensive. Like the cameras, we don't have to go to security. We're small cameras. We can go to Best Buy and buy the set of 10 of them with a box and a TV, for like $1,500.
They're $5.
Yeah. I even told, I think I was, Jensen was laughing at me because I said, why don't you just go order a ring for $70?
Camera.
You know, at least,
These things.
It's too late this year, but for next year, put in for a couple of, like, full security system.
That is awesome.
Every class. I think the government even this year is spending a lot more money for security.
okay, good. So they might allocate too.
Signing off on something what volatility is, but it's just way too much and we had no one to monitor it, so we vetoed it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be, especially with like the rate button, to think about the resources we have now. The rate button automatically goes to law enforcement. And so we don't need a system like a security system. That isn't a security system. Something happens, we hit the rate button. Right? We just need to be able to do things internally. Like the door. I'm getting my exercise and I need to lose it because since I've been there, you guys are pretty too good. But they ring that dang doorbell, ding dong, and me and Jensen stood, you know, our desks our offices are like this. Me and Jensen look up and we're like, rock, paper, scissors, and then we have to go all the way down the hall. And it's not just for visitors, it's for students. And it got me thinking safety issue too, because they don't have access to get into the school. And so if something did happen, they're trapped between.
They want to
the
run to the
office.
school, they can't do that.
Yeah, and we did talk with the law enforcement about possibly, fencing in, you know, where the propane tank is on that side. Fencing that in and then fencing the front part of the parking lot so that we're a closed campus. Because right now, I mean, there was a cool dog there the other day guarding the door and I walked up there and went, oh. Oh, and one of the kids said, came around the corner, he says, res dog. I go, nice or not nice? And he goes, I don't know, I've not seen that one. And then I said, well, you're not moving, I'm not moving either. But
You just never know.
so, I mean, and he was a sweet dog. I went up and I pet him and but it was, to me, it really does like, we're exposed there. But the law enforcement, they said they're gonna go in. I'm gonna make sure, so that this will go into the, safety drills. We conducted a shelter in place Thursday. Law enforcement from the Pueblo were able to come in and have a presence. They had a quick introduction and they talked with the students. Like I said, most of them already, hey cousin, hey, I know you. So it was nice to put them on notice, right? But they're gonna be working closely with us to make sure that they're part of any upcoming drills, any trainings. We're gonna be doing active shooting training with Palms and Associates, but we're also gonna do one with the Pueblo. So we can never have too much training, okay? And then there's other opportunities to help make the campus safe. So additionally, they're gonna be making threat and safety assessments for us on our school. And I asked them, just make a list. Give me a list and let's see what we can do. They were concerned about the large windows. I said, well, we're not gonna be able to replace those windows, but what can we do reasonably now to make sure our kids are safe, you know? And they're very committed to safety. It's good people there, you know who they are, especially Officer Becker, such a nice person. She came in and she said, I've got a big list. And I said, keep adding to it.
bring it in and we'll talk about it. She said she tried to stop by either next week or the following week, and we'll talk about it. But the first things were little, I said, let's start with the little things that we know we can take care of this year. And then let's look at where the budget is going into next year for the big things, we can say by security cameras, stuff like that.
Well, even if you fence, you can always take it with you.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
I don't wanna volunteer. If my wife was right here, she'd say you have a master fence builder right there that you hired as a head administrator. I'm tired of building fence.
That Steve Martin movie when he's leaving and I'm taking this with
I'm
me."
taking it out.
He's got his chair, I'm taking it, that's how we're gonna be. Steve Martin going down the street with.
Yeah. And we should. And then the last thing that I'm gonna request is CB radios. We don't have an intercom system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we called the shelter in place, I found a little bullhorn. And then I divided it between 3 people to go to 3 different spots. And so I think this will be something I work with the business office for next week.
Yeah, perfect.
They'll get, we only need 12 radios, I think I counted. They'll be in each classroom, so not every person needs it, each classroom needs to have one. And the cafeteria needs one, Dominic's class needs one, the portable needs one, and then each class under there, and then of course I'm gonna have my own visual. And then I'm gonna be attending the, safety summit, school safety summit in 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm looking forward at the, learning a little bit more. I was part of the safety committees and stuff like that, but not to the full extent that I am now, and I just wanna make sure, you know, like I thought, we can't teach kids if they're not safe. Our first priority, kids come to us, is safe. And I always remind them, there's the language that they have in the law. We act in local parentis, not local like we're going crazy. Sometimes we do,
Local.
but we act local, like in place of parents. And so
Oh, yeah.
they're trusting us when they drop their kids off to us, that we,
We're their
number one, we're keeping them safe, and number two, we're giving them free appropriate education. You shouldn't take that lightly. And so safety first, once we get all those things done, we can really focus more on what goes on in the classroom. We are now, but we need to get those in. Some of these things are easy, like you said, the radios, I think I priced out a 12-pack from Amazon for like $300 with their own charging.
And they
bases.
just put them on charging.
Yeah.
station. Yeah.
They'll have their own charging bases. We don't have to get the fancy ones like other schools do. We just need something within a mile or 2 radius. Being able to make sure that staff keeps them on, and if they go outside, we're working on safety backpacks. I didn't put this in here, but we're working on safety backpacks, emergency backpacks that have student lists in them, first aid kit. So if they're outside or they go on a field trip, they take those backpacks with them, and at all times they have the listed kids. It was something I saw at Turquoise Trail that I really liked how they did the protocol for that, and I feel like we get to replicate those things, right? And I've seen it at other schools, but Turquoise Trail was really good on it. They didn't realize we even time on fire drills. Told Jensen, when our fire drill, he said, we only did one. I said, really, what was the time? He goes, oh, I think we did it like 9 o'clock in the morning. I go, no. What, how fast did you guys do it? He goes, we're supposed to find those things. And I said,
That's like, I'm on the safety this building,
Yeah.
like, how do we get everyone out and outside, like 3 minutes, like
Got it.
all this people.
I think for a school, it was like 2 minutes was our goal, was to try to get them out. Because it doesn't make sense. I looked at him and said, Jensen, we call it drill, and everybody, it takes them 10 minutes, we're all gonna burn up. And
And then we leave the all clear on the door and close the door and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I have. Do you have any questions for me and the things we're gonna try to implement here?
Everything we need, everything we've been talking about, this board's been together for a while. All this stuff has been on the table before, all talk, no action. I'm just happy to see that.
Well, I appreciate your support, because I know it's tough too, like as I said, it's the ability to trust me, right? The board and the staff, and I'm here to earn your trust. Just know that I'm at the center focus for kids every single day. They're my kids too, right? That's what I've always said, they're my kids, and I don't take that lightly. It's something that's really important to me, and if there's something that you see that have those types of recommendations that you see as parents, as members of the community, let me know. Let's work together and try to get these things fixed. We do have the budget to get some of these things done going. We'll work with the business office. The quicker the better. Obviously, the regulars and the door knobs are going to find two big things now, and we'll see where we're at going in. Capital outlay will be huge for us going into next year. And then part of that too is recruitment, right? I want to emphasize that. Like, we need kids. We need kids. And I think the best way we can promote it is say we're the safest school in this
Like,
whole
yeah,
bubble.
once the people learn and they see and we have community meetings, then they'll start paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't put two things in here, I'm just gonna mention a couple of things. We did get the grant from the PBC, $10,000. We're gonna probably put that towards tutoring. So we were lucky to secure that grant.
Thank you.
What else? We did get, oh yeah, we are gonna be embarking on the summer reading program. So, they didn't do that last year for some reason, or we need it, another recruitment tool to bring in. I did talk about the Korean cooking class that we're gonna bring to our school. We dug up some, I know Angie and Greg were like, we'll get clever, we'll find the money, it's like $500 a class, but we need an incentive for our, especially for our middle schoolers to work towards what I told them is have these grades and you're showing up on time and you're making, you're not missing this much school. I'm gonna let you guys go to the Korean cooking classes we're gonna bring, and we're gonna actually.
You can be involved in extracurricular activities because you're doing so well.
Precisely. And you also are gonna have an asset at some point. I know Margie reached out to a possible new board member. Just want to mention that real quick. Patrick Segura, some of you guys know him. Pecos, Officer Pecos was one of the officers under him. And he's law enforcement. I worked with him at Turquoise Trail. I got reliable and a great reverence. He's an amazing person. He's a great dad. And I'm excited for the potential for him to join the board because he's also going to bring a different perspective that I don't have. And he'll be able to come in and help us with some of the safety things.
And he's willing to participate and, Teresa helped me look up in Diego in the bylaws. Would you say like our bylaws state, 5 to 7 members, board members, and 3 is a quorum. So we can all say we're not letting anybody go off the board, we're just saying we have that extra member. We got in so much trouble when we got down to only 3 members and we thought we were good because there's a quorum, but no, you have to have 5 to 7 at all times.
Or 5.
Minimum 5.
Instead, statute, you have to have 5 members. Literally, if you go down below 5, the school can get shut down.
And we were down and we were just, and under our understanding, what we were told, as long as you have a quorum, you're still good. So we were actively looking for board members, but we still had a quorum and we thought we were good. But that's how we got these 2. But we'll have 6 now.
So you have to have 5 that, you guys can't always attend the people meetings, like missing a couple of meetings is fine. But, if you want consistent members, that's why it is nice to have officials. If you go to 6 board members, your quorum will be 4. Number has always that number over. Okay.
I think the next thing is gonna be policies that are on there. Yeah.
Just a comment. So in your report on the agenda, you identified the things that you're gonna be reporting to the governing board again. If I'm a staff member and I go look at that, now I know what you're telling them, what you're talking with them about. And if it was one of my issues, all right, finally, somebody bringing it to the governing board. So they all know, and your community would also know, look at all these things that the principal, the head administrator is talking to our governing board about. It builds trust, transparency, and an inside way to go, another communication tool.
Yeah. And we want the public to know what we're doing. Yes, they're who we serve. And then the next things on there are policies. There's really a couple of
Before you move on, I don't know if they've contacted you, but the new governor is wanting to come down and talk to the school and the students and staff.
We would love to invite. We invite them to everything, but they don't always show up. Cause I get with Lynn and say, you're invited.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, because we had a meeting and that's what they said, they're gonna come down, but
Can you initiate maybe a quick meeting with us? And what I'd really like to do is keep that a consistent visit, right? I know it's one of those things, same thing that we're doing with law enforcement. A lot of what schools do is say, oh, they'll show up once or twice out of the year. With what the law enforcement we were talking with now, their group said we can come in once or twice a month. I said, please, let's do this. We can teach them this. I said, what I'd really like to do is teach them, like if we're gonna do active shooter, typically they train the staff and then it's up to the staff to go and do the students. They said, no, we'll train the students as well. And so I said, what I'd really like to do is get all of our kids CPR trained, first aid trained. That's something I wanted to do at every school I was at. I was never able to do it because I just didn't have enough of the support. And of course the time for the people that are committed, but if they're giving us that time and commitment, let's utilize it. Let's set that up, because one thing I would ask maybe when you talk to them next is
setting up a meeting with me just so I can see their perspective. I'd love for them to come in once or twice a month, especially to our cultural language class. Again, how can we make what we have better, right? And I think that's important to have their perspective. Maybe they want to come in and teach a class once a
You,
week or
you
once.
want to talk about traditional, our governor this year, he is a very traditional man. He's an elder, we've had younger. He's an elder in there, he retired our city employee, city of Albuquerque, he is so traditional.
Maybe you can help us with that magnet. All right, we'll figure that out. So we do have, some policy updates. There's really the big specific ones are the school handbooks. I guess the bylaws, which I'll refer to our mentorship today from CSNM, and then the Black Education Act. So, at some point, we need to review the restraint policy. What I'm gonna do for the next meeting is there's some stuff in the safety policy. I'm gonna pull from other places. I'm gonna put them in and I'll present them. So I'm gonna submit those. They said it was okay to do those as long as we were having conversations about them. And in the event that it changes, we just update the handbook, right? We update the safety plan. But because I'm pulling these from different schools who I already know are very comprehensive, I feel like there's gonna be minimum changes if any. So the first one that we were looking at are school handbooks. I have student handbooks, and I know we probably want some time to go through. We won't do that now, but what I'm requesting is, let's see, that's sorry, I got all kinds of different things here. What I'm proposing to make things a little bit easier, I'm not to reopen these, is to approve these as they are and give you time to review them. These have already been reviewed by some of our staff, by Wallatoa. Actually, some of the staff helped create these things that are in place. And what I'd really like to do is approve them. And then over time, as you catch certain things that maybe we need to update or we need to change, we'll do those at those board meetings. Okay. There's nothing in here that would, jeopardize or be detrimental to other folks.
Yeah, because I just noticed the time, I'm like, oh, a lot of people need to go, and Susan is an
Yeah.
hour earlier than, or
I'm
an
so
hour later
sorry.
than us, so she's already 5 o'clock her time already.
So I'll just kind of pull this up, and show you real quick. There's an employee handbook and there's a student handbook. I'd really like to focus on the student. I'm not gonna go through this. I'm just going to share it with you so that you can kind of just see that we actually have one here. We are gonna have to make updates as we go into next school year, but there's nothing official for the school year. The handbook is out of date. And this is very thorough. There are things we're gonna change, like I said, and I have to make sure that I have, but the folks that you had in place before I got there kind of already initiated this. I don't think you guys voted on it because they just weren't being implemented. So just in a good faith, just requesting, here's the parent and student handbook code of conduct. It's pretty in line with Wallatoa charter. Again, this is probably one of the big things that we all need to make sure that we're probably on the same page with, right? And so, yeah, everything from our objectives to accreditation to attendance. Again, if there's something that we feel just isn't who we are, we come back and have a conversation and we'll change it. But as of right now, and Diego and Teresa, does that sound appropriate to request the approval
Yeah.
from the
I
board?
think you can have something that says the current year, just for like that, and then definitely, I would say the revision should come for next year. You know, because you guys could do, the damage, you could do the recommendation where you go through that. And then you can have the recommendation to the board. So this is something.
So you'll just go through the vote on that and,
And just so the board knows that anytime anything happens for your employee handbook or your, say, so I'll give you an example. At the school I was at, we had a lot of young, staff members and a lot of them got pregnant at the same time. And it was great. But then what happened was we didn't have a really good policy in place because we had where you donate your sick leave. And so the staff donated sick leave to this one individual, and basically she was out the entire year. Yeah, And so that's great for her, but we also had to pay for a sub for her and pay her for full salary.
And she was a part-time teacher.
And she was a part-time teacher. So that, you know, I wish we were like a $15 million, you know, charter school, but we were only at 2.5 million. So we imagine if other,
Struggling.
yeah, so what we did was we right away in the middle of the year, put a policy in place, went to the board and said, look, we need to say, yes, go ahead and donate, but no more than 2 weeks. So that we wouldn't break the bank.
Her part-time salary, her donated leave salary, and then you've got the substitute teacher salary.
Yeah. So we put a policy in place.
So, yeah, we're,
And it's right, when something like that is abused.
then you make policy, yeah. It's like at home, right? When your kids mess up, all right, new rule.
Yeah.
Black Education Act policy.
Yeah.
Why is that in place?
Yeah.
Think
About
about
like the Yazzie Martinez, right?
why is that in place? Because kids of
Sure.
color are not getting what they deserve.
My friends make the joke with me because every time something happens in education, they're like, it was all you, wasn't it? They didn't have to do that until you jumped in there and I'm like, oh, be quiet. It's always me. So, yeah, I'm just looking, I would go ahead and put that to the board to make a motion and if you guys would.
Okay, so is it for each, should we do each one individually? Like each of these policies?
Nope, you
You
don't need to.
don't have to.
We can
You
do
can
them all
put it all together. You can make a motion to approve.
We would like to, okay, I need a call for principal, under the principal report. We had discussion and on the policy updates, the handbook, and the bylaws. We all need, all of this needs to be here in draft form. But all approved right now.
I would start with a school handbook. I know it says handbook, it should say handbook because it's going to be employee and the student.
Okay, so
And then kind of move down to the items, because I don't know if are we gonna vote on
we're
the
gonna,
bylaws?
we're not gonna vote on the bylaws.
No.
These are all, the ones we're gonna need a motion to vote on are the school handbooks, the policy updates, and the Block Education Act. And she said we can do a blanket.
Okay.
Okay,
And just make sure it just says those three.
yeah.
Okay, and I can show you, just so you know, let me just show you real quick. This is what the Black education policy looks like. You guys had had one drafted in 21, but it wasn't updated with the current statutes and requirements. So one of them is that it has to have a specific definition for racialized aggression. And it says, you know, these acts and behaviors are strictly prohibited. And then it had to have a certain set of consequences.
Oh,
And so I took these straight off of Turquoise Trail because theirs was very comprehensive. Again, at some point, we should probably review these so that if we feel like these aren't us, this isn't who we are, we change them. But this would be what I'm proposing for our amendment to the policy prohibiting racialized aggression. And it wouldn't be an amendment, right? It would just be the policy.
this is the first time we voted.
This, I pulled this and then I added to this, and it says draft on it. I don't know how to maybe show draft off there, but this is what I need to submit. One of the items, last items I need to submit to NM dash to get this done.
It's an amendment, but this is your new policy.
Oh, yes. So should I take the amendment portion off of it?
I don't think we need to have that. It's a new policy.
No.
So I'll just say policy. Prohibiting racial. Okay.
All right, so as a board, I just need a motion to accept the policy updates or the school handbooks, both the staff and student handbooks and the Block Education Act. Okay.
Motion.
Anybody want to make a motion for that?
I'll make the motion for that. School handbook, policy approved, and Block Education.
Okay, Ladonna, Yepistando made a motion to accept those policy updates, school handbooks, and Block Education Act. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
County Upshot Toya second. All in favor, say aye.
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 You opposed?
Roll call.
Okay, roll call is Susan Baca to accept it.
Yes.
David?
Yes.
County? Yes. Yes, and Ladonna? Yes. Margie Curl, yes. Is all accepted unanimously. So, those policies and updates, school handbooks and Black Education Act have been accepted. Anything else on the principal's report?
No,
Anybody have any questions about the principal's report? So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda is the announcements. And the announcements is the next scheduled meeting for the San Diego Riverside School Board is going to be scheduled for the second Thursday of the month, which is March 13th at 6 p.m.
Are you gonna? Decide on the location?
Yeah, we'll decide on location. We'll be meeting in person, but we will still have a Zoom link so that it will be recorded. But we like to be meeting in person, and it could be in Albuquerque or Bernalillo, or I don't think we'll have it at the bubble or at the school. So we'll tell you a new location, and we'll post that within the 72-hour time frame when we post the agenda. Okay, the next item on, anybody have any questions on the announcements? The next item on the agenda is meeting adjournment. I just have need a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting at 3:02 p.m.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 3:01 p.m.
Okay, Susan Baca is ready to go. She made a motion to adjourn the meeting at 3:01 p.m. Do I have a second? LaDonna Yepa Sando seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Round in. Do the roll call. Susan Baca,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Yanni,
Yes.
LaDonna. Yes. Margie, yes. Motion carried and unanimously, meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Susan.
Great
Have a great weekend.
Yep. Bye-bye.
The nine part with-
I'm in all the way you guys. Oh my